Thanks for tuning in to the Replatform podcast sponsored by Ampliance and Klaviyo. You're listening to myself, James Gerd. My co-host Paul Rogers is otherwise engaged today. Thank you for regular listeners for tuning back in, and a warm welcome if this is your first time. We hope you enjoy the content. Do subscribe and you get a new episode alert every week. And we'd love a like on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. It makes us feel good about our inadequacies in life. And let me set up today's episode and I'll introduce you to our wonderful guest. So our topic is how Yotpo is being used to improve customer loyalty and lifetime value. We're going to be covering understanding the Yotpo platform ecosystem, because it's got a lot of different product features, and as with all vendors, they're constantly releasing new capabilities. How SMS is being used to improve customer engagement and conversion, the new subscriptions product for Shopify merchants, and future roadmap focus. So that's my little ramble to get set up. So welcome. First of all, let's welcome to Itay, who's the Director of Partnerships. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you, James. I was curious, when will we get the invitation to be on the podcast? I'm so happy that our time has finally come. So I appreciate the invitation. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
That's good. I believe that you're a lot warmer than we are in the UK today, because you're in the glorious sunshine just outside of Tel Aviv.
Very true, very true. So I moved back after 3 years in London. I moved back about last summer, still kind of making my heads to London about once a month. So I still get the London weather enough to remember how good it is. But yeah, most of my days I spend in our HQ in Tel Aviv.
Cool. Well, lovely. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And welcome, Erin, as well. So, Erin, you're Senior Manager for Learning and Enablement. And I understood that you relocated to London from New York about 6 months ago. So you've gone from freezing cold to a little less freezing cold.
Yeah, good morning, James. Thanks so much for having us. So, I'm originally, as I'm sure your listeners can tell, I'm full American, despite my wanting to learn in the British accent. But yeah, I've been with Yotpo about 7 years and had the great opportunity about 6 months ago to relocate from our US headquarters in New York City over to London. So been loving it so far. We got some snow yesterday and it's making me feel like I'm back at home. So happy to be in London, happy to be here.
We like to do our best. We like to freeze people to make them feel welcome. But we've got loads of really interesting questions about the platform and the technology and how people are using it. Before we do, there will be people who have used Yotpo, people who've looked at it, and people who don't know really where you fit in the market. So between the two of you, I'll let you fight it out who's going to answer and how. Can you give us like your 60-second elevator pitch? What is Yotpo? What does it do and why?
Sure. So I'll take it, even though I know for a fact Erin is going to do a better job than me. So Yotpo, if you don't know us, we started as a reviews-only solution about 11 years ago, actually. We worked a very long way in the past kind of over a decade and added great products along the way, including a full suite of UGC features or user-generated content features, if the terms UGC is kind of foreign to you, loyalty and refer a friend platforms, SMS and email marketing, and most recently subscriptions. So the idea, and we'll get into the details of why we added so many products along the way, but basically Yotpo offers all the tools that you need to market to your most loyal customers and community members, allowing your brand to grow their community into like advocates, making sure that your revenue from retention is increasing, and that's pretty much where we are today.
Excellent, thanks. I think that's a really nice one. Yeah, I think it's a good distinction, because I know a few people historically associated Yotpo purely with reviews, but it's moved on massively. So we're going to tease that out in the episode. And actually, before I get into some of the questions, Erin, I think an interesting question. I know that Itay, you're Director of Partnerships, and I think people can probably understand that. You are Senior Manager for Learning and Enablement. Is that customer success focused, or is that a wider role?
Great question. So I spent my time at Yotpo in many different roles. Started out in sales for a couple of years and then was in customer success for both our smaller merchants and then our most strategic merchants. So I do have a background in customer success at Yotpo, but now Learning and Enablement is actually meant to help our internal teams. So what we consider our go-to-market teams, sales, partnerships, customer success, really, with their training, ongoing learning and development, and ultimately meet their revenue goals and KPI. So I've taken all of that historical knowledge and experience at Yotpo, and now I'm helping grow our internal employees. So
interesting. Well, I can see why the customer success background is important, because helping people understand the customer mindset is so important for growth anyway. So we've already referenced that Yotpo has a lot of different products in its armory. Which products are you seeing the most demand growth for in 22, and why?
So it's a really good question. I guess the answer really depends on kind of, what market are we looking at, and what types of segment. Is it like SMB or mid-market, enterprise, and so on? In general, loyalty is a very strong driver of sales recently. So I would say in the past kind of 2-3 years, if in the past you had to convince a brand why they need to have a loyalty program to begin with, now our sellers are almost, they don't typically have to explain why a brand needs a loyalty platform. It's about explaining how our loyalty platform integrates with their overall kind of tech stack, how our loyalty strategy is different to other loyalty strategies, and more than anything, how kind of loyalty becomes something more holistic into your retention strategy. So that's one thing. I would say another really interesting kind of product, and I think we're going to talk more about this, is SMS is seeing a tremendous growth. So again, different markets behave very differently. Obviously, the German market is less receptive to SMS than, let's say, the US market. Maybe I think I kind of chose the two kind of edges of the spectrum. So different markets behave very differently, not just from privacy concerns, but also like, SMS is a function of carriers, and different carriers charge different amounts and fees in different markets. So in some markets, SMS is more expensive than other, not because of the solution, because of the carriers. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, we're seeing like a massive appetite for brands to use SMS as a marketing channel, as a tool to kind of cut through the noise and get merchants, also a community where they actually spend most of their time on their mobile phones. And I was personally very surprised to see how receptive brands and individuals are to send an SMS campaign, also to receive an SMS campaign.
Yeah, I think that's borne out by what I've seen in the market in the last few years. I think US was ahead of the UK and other parts of Europe in terms of SMS adoption, and the UK's caught up really, really quickly, and it's become an area that more businesses are taking seriously and put investment in tech in, and also the tooling to execute campaigns. So let's push into that a bit more, if you don't mind. You've got SMS bump product. And part of that, you've got an SMS flow builder. So I think what e-commerce people on here want to hear is, what does the flow builder let us do? Like, how are merchants really using this?
Yeah, I can take that one. So great question. So explaining the flow builder just at a high level. So flows are essentially automated text that a brand can send based on an event. So think about, a certain event occurs, such as somebody opts into signing up for SMS, and then a brand within Yotpo SMS can set up different messages and flows essentially based on those different triggers. So at a high level, what the flow builder is designed to do is have those hyper personalized messages, right? Consumers don't want to have the same message that their friend has that has completely different shopping habits. So we have about 20 or so out of the box flows in our flow library that a brand can actually come to Yotpo without any SMS experience and choose our top performing flows, or they can build their own. So I'll just share maybe one or two what I find personally really interesting use cases of brands using our flow builder. One could be, as I just briefly mentioned, a welcome flow, but more of a conversational element. So let's say as a consumer, you just opted into SMS, and let's imagine for a second the brand sells skincare products. What a brand can do with Yotpo SMS is they can actually create a welcome flow, say, hi, James, welcome to XYZ brand's community. Do you have a certain skin type? And actually start having a conversation with that customer and asking them, is your skin type dry? Is it oily or problematic in certain areas? And then based on the consumer's answer, actually create those automated responses and conversations and ultimately deliver a product recommendation based on that criteria. Skincare is one example. This, of course, works in any industry. Another use case I'll share before kind of wrapping this up is just, maybe abandoned cart. So looking at when someone abandoned a cart, maybe also looking at historical purchase behavior, such as how many times they've shopped with a brand, and actually creating kind of dynamic conversations through SMS based on what they had in their cart. And maybe if they've purchased in the past, we don't need to offer them an incentive. But if they've never purchased from the brand, maybe that flow will actually have something like 10% off their purchase.
And from my understanding, the flow builders are self-serve, so you don't need a development resource. So you're basically, if you're pushing the event data in, you can then create the flow based on what the data points are. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So we have out-of-the-box integrations with both Magento and Shopify for our SMS products. And with those two platforms, and I'll just caveat really quickly, that we can also support, custom-built platforms. It just takes a little more development work. But for the sake of this, let's focus on our out-of-the-box integrations. So we have about 35 plus data points we get from both of those tech providers. And based on that information, brands can create segments and flows based on customer location, their gender, their shopping habits, so how frequently they purchase. And then, of course, the other data points we have based on our other product lines. So are they a loyalty member? Have they written a review? Have they referred a friend? So yes, James, everything's completely out of the box, meaning you don't need development resources necessarily to build those flows. And as I said, we highlight, recommended ones as well.
Yeah, and I think, increasingly that's the world people have evolved to, away from platforms where every time you want to enable something, you get a developer to raise a ticket and the developer builds it to, well, I've got the data points and I can just self-serve and hook it in. And you talked about, or basically pre-made connectors, which is, I think people in the worlds of Shopify, BigCommerce are used to that. Less so in the likes of Magento, because there always seems to be a bit of development. But what are the integration requirements? Are these connectors built into the platform so that people don't have to do anything? They literally turn them on, or is there any development work needed to get those data flows working once the connector's installed?
Good question. So it will differ between a e-com platform like Shopify versus Magento, just due to the nature of the platforms themselves. Obviously, Magento platforms, typically there's no one size fits all. Every brand might have a unique Magento instance. So I'll kind of answer that in two parts. With Shopify, it's pretty out of the box, meaning you just kind of download the app, flip a switch, and SMS is on. Magento, it does take, sometimes a little bit of 10 development hours, but it's still pretty minimal in the scheme of things because we have invested all of those resources in developing the integration. And then the brand just needs to set it up based on their unique instance with Magento.
I was about to say 10 hours of Magento is extremely light. I think people need to do a lot more complex development work integrate, especially when people have looked historically at SMS and email integrations. They tend to take quite a long time. So interesting. Now, I understand, although I don't really know much about this part of your product set, so I'm looking forward to hearing more about the mobile checkout click to buy that's been implemented. I'd love to know how this works. Is it specific to a platform? Is it platform agnostic? And therefore, how does it work? So if somebody puts it in, what's doing the actual purchasing mechanism?
Yeah. So currently, this is with our Shopify integration. And the way click to buy works is essentially the brand can pre-populate a cart for their shopper based on what they already know about them. So going back to those 35 or so data points we have on, historical shopping behavior and what they've purchased in the past, brands would create kind of a dynamic shortcode in their SMS flow or campaign with a pre-populated link. So the way it works in practicality is I send a message out to a consumer with a bunch of products that are curated to them. They click on the link and then it brings them to the native Shopify checkout. So there really aren't any limitations. A brand can use all different payment providers because it kind of just brings them to that final step of the purchasing journey. With those products already curated, we can even automatically apply a discount code if they'd like.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're not trying to touch the actual checkout and the payment itself. You're trying to speed up. Oh, that's interesting. So basically you've done the integration with Shopify. Therefore, that link runs a script that automatically populates a basket in Shopify then.
Yep, exactly. So we bypass the add to cart and all of the previous steps and essentially say, here's your curated cart. You're on the cart page. Maybe a discount's applied. And then they just need to, enter the rest of their payment details.
And I'm assuming then that if people want to set this up, they're setting that up and creating the link through your admin. They're not doing it through Shopify's, right? But your integration enables that process to then flow through.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Oh, that's cool. I can see why that's very. And is that live are there live examples of people using it at the moment, or is this really new to market?
No, we've had this. This has been live since about April of this year. So we have tons of brands that are currently using it. I actually got an experience the other day with a brand that I didn't even really realize that they were necessarily signed up for Yotpo SMS, but I was subscribed to their messages and I used it with a skincare brand. So
yeah, I'm intrigued to see how much more SMS gets used over the next 6 to 12 months, because it's definitely harder trade in times. There are certain verticals that are struggling, and inboxes get saturated very, very quickly, and also people's attention spans in inboxes drops off massively. Another part of the product I think would be really useful to do some clarification on is the real-time reporting. I know that most platforms offer tooling to people have reports, and sometimes e-commerce teams struggle to understand what the value add is, because they're used to using their analytics tooling, or they might have a BI system from a financial point of view. Can you just clarify, how do customers use your real-time reports? Like what do the real-time reports enable them to do? Like what decisions can it help them make, basically?
Yeah, so we have both high-level analytics for, all of our products, but just in the nature of SMS we were just talking about, James. So, what we find is really important that a brand can not only just see their high-level revenue, but it can actually see how each SMS flow or campaign is performing, so they can make tweaks. So, for example, Black Friday, Cyber Monday just recently occurred. Maybe they ran a big campaign and they want to see how that specific SMS campaign performs. They can dive in with the Yotpo platform in real time and see, okay, how many people clicked on the message, how many purchases were made, how many people, added an item to their cart but abandoned purchase. And then, working with the Yotpo SMS strategist to actually maybe make adjustments for the next campaign they run to maybe, make some minor changes. To just answer it at a high level, reporting as a business is something we really believe in. We have pretty robust reporting in all of our product lines.
What is Amplience? In a word, it's freedom. The freedom to build a digital experience as limitless as your vision. Create, preview, schedule, and manage all your content in one easy place. Find out more at amplience.com. Amplience. Experience freedom.
Yeah, I think that ability to make adjustments on the fly is really useful, as opposed to waiting to the end of a campaign and having to spend lots of time doing a big piece of report. And it feels like that's quite an antiquated way of doing analysis these days. Cool, thank you. So the next question I've got, and I'm intrigued about this genuinely because I love seeing roadmaps evolve over years. And you've recently added subscriptions product for Shopify customers. And subscription has been a big part of the Shopify platform for a while, and Recharge has been the dominant player in the subscription space. And I know that Shopify has opened up subscription capability core to the platform now. I'd love to know why this addition. So why have you gone down this route, and what is the product strategy basically for subscription?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I guess there's a few questions that kind of hiding in within your question. First of all, let's talk about why subscription in general. And I think kind of the most compelling stat that there is Shopify said that by 2025, 3 out of every 4 DTC brands will offer subscriptions. So just about from a business perspective, the business opportunity, but also if you really want to serve brands properly, and I think that's maybe something I missed on when I kind of present the Yotpo. I'll talk about this now, but when you really want to serve brands properly, you cannot ignore subscriptions. So I'll just very briefly, I just want to talk about one thing that we hear about conceptually from brands, and then I'm going to dive back into subscription. But one of the biggest pain points that retailers and brands are experiencing now, definitely kind of the smaller brands, is the influx of different e-commerce marketing applications, endpoints that they have to use, right? Anywhere between 15 and 20 different marketing applications. If it's reviews, if it's personalization, if it's site search, email marketing, and so on and so on and so on. Most of these brands have a very small marketing teams, right? For them to manage all these different applications is a difficulty on the one hand. When you're trying to synergize and make the most out of those kind of different applications and their integration, it becomes even harder, right? Comes Yotpo and says, we want to make sure that the life of like the SMB to small mid-market brands is much easier down the line, right? You want to have multiple marketing applications, not a problem. We'll give you that on a single platter, on a single platform, making sure that you're going to have benefits from using multiple products under Yotpo. For example, if you're going to leave a review, you're going to get loyalty points. If you are a consumer that left multiple positive star ratings and reviews, meaning you are more prone to recommend a friend. So I'm gonna choose you as an ambassador or something to refer a friend to the brand in the future, right? So there's different like multiple like dots connection that Yotpo does for the brand to make sure that their marketing life is much easier, right? That's where we're going to be a retention platform with multiple products. Now I'm going to go back to subscription. So when we build subscription, we're not just focusing on having like another way to take money from a consumer. We're not building a product that supports brands to drive subscription growth. What we do is we provide brands with a tool to grow those subscribers and making sure that their community is able to purchase better. So we'll be able to identify who are those kind of good potential consumers that can be subscribers into the future. We'll be able to help you identify a red flag from a subscriber that had a very negative experience with one of those products, right? So it's not just about kind of the single experience of buying under the subscription product. It's about how subscription ties into your overall kind of retention strategy.
And so in terms of that's an interesting distinction. In terms of that payment piece, because I know with the mobile checkout, the SMS, you're not doing the payment. The checkout's within the platform. You're just driving that engagement. Is it the same as subscriptions, or are you processing subscription payments, or does it rely on the business needing a subscription payment provider to work alongside your tool?
Exactly. So we rely on the existing payments that brand already have. What we do is we play with the mechanism. If you think about SMS is the same way, right? A lot of different carriers can allow you to send an SMS. The brain behind it allows you to segment, to do it in a more sophisticated way. That's where kind of the platforms come into play.
So say, for example, does this play well with the SMS bump to target people through SMS to upsell like subscription products?
100%. That ties into every single one of our product lines. So our roadmap, and next year, I think we'll get to it maybe in a second, but the roadmap for next year is just to make sure that not just subscription will be a bigger part of every one of our single platforms. For example, James, you left a negative review on a skincare brand that you're using consistently for the past 3 years. If you are a community member that buys consistently from the brands 3 years and you have a negative interactions with the product and you're a subscriber, that needs to be flagged much higher than just an individual that purchased for the first time with like a mid-range experience, right? So making sure the subscription ties into all of our products, reviews, loyalty, refer a friend, SMS. How can I change the cadence of how often do I want to get my gas tank for SodaStream, for example, right? I'm going on vacation for a month. I don't want my favorite kind of pet food supplier to come when I'm away. How can I communicate back with the brand in the way that's most convenient for me via my cell phone? I'm just going to text, pause or stop. All those things, all those enhancements are something that we're going to put into our roadmap in the future to make sure the experience is much more seamless.
I can see that use case is simplifying the ability to tie up the data points to automate changes rather than having to rely on using complex flows and alerts from disparate tools. I can see the benefit of doing that. Interesting. And is anybody doing that at the moment? Because I know the subscription is relatively new. Is anyone using it and automating those flows where if they're getting a negative review or if something's happening, they're changing their behavior on the subscription level?
So what we see, and Erin, feel free kind of to chime in as well, but what we see is even though our integrations do exist, and we know we have 180 different integrations with different tech providers globally, right? From a lot of different verticals and a lot of different kind of types of side of the business. Integrations are nice. They will never be able to kind of to fully kind of express the potential or fully kind of give you the full value if they were sort of under one roof, right? So that's where we see that even though integrations do exist, they offer you like a tasting of the value, but not all of it. And that's something that we really want to change.
And I know the loyalty engine is a big part of the product set. A few times when I've worked with clients recently on loyalty, the biggest consideration or concern for them is how well loyalty plays with their eCRM tools, which might be a Klaviyo, could even be a MailChimp, a Dot Digital. You know, there are myriad out there, as you well know. So can you talk people through if they're using an existing eCRM tool and they want to plug in your loyalty, how does that integration work, and what can people do to automate campaigns?
Yeah, so as Itay just mentioned, we will never kind of terminate any of our existing partnerships and integrations. We really believe that, you know, the ecosystem out there is some of our great partners. So we have really great integrations on the loyalty front with most of the top performing, eCRM, ESPs, depending on how you look at it. The Klaviyos, MailChimps, Bronto, Immersis, Ometria, like tons and tons. I think we have over 15 ESPs we integrate with on the loyalty side. So all of the loyalty related notifications can definitely be sent through their ESP and automated. So, you know, for example, if somebody just reaches a VIP tier and a customer wants, or a brand wants to send that customer a thank you and say, hey, James, you just unlocked XYZ benefits because you just earned this VIP tier. Or maybe they actually just want to embed loyalty related attributes or information into their existing flows. So for example, again, let's just take Klaviyo. A brand is sending out a Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign, and they say, hey, Itay, you actually have 500 loyalty points. You're a gold VIP tier member, and you've referred 5 friends. So actually just using that loyalty data to personalize their emails further. So there's kind of both ends of the spectrum with our integrations.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of how far loyalty goes in terms of the type of rewards it supports, there are some businesses where simple points-based works well, and others where they're terrified by restricting their customers to just points and spend-based. So I'd love to know, how does it play with more advanced loyalty rewards, like, you know, free gifts with purchase and non-spend related things, like, you know, if you're posting UGC or you're leaving reviews, you get given additional loyalty rewards. Could you talk people through how far they can push it, basically?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things about our loyalty product. And actually, when I spent many years on the customer success side, what we typically do when a brand first joins us is we do a big strategy session and we understand, okay, what are your goals? What are you looking to get out of loyalty? And based on what they tell us, we set up and actually strategize that with them on very specific and dynamic loyalty campaigns based on their criteria. So, you know, just the other day I was working with a brand, for example, that wanted to, essentially one of their pain points, they were a fashion brand, is that they were getting a lot of returns or people were purchasing the wrong size. So we actually use loyalty as a way to educate the customer on, you know, how to purchase the right size by giving them loyalty points for reading their fit guide. So that's just like one very specific example, but there's a lot of these other, you know, use cases. It could be, we work with all different verticals that maybe just launch new products and they want to actually drive sales to a specific product category. So yes, the answer to your question is loyalty can be very dynamic, and that's what makes it really fun, is that no two loyalty programs should be the same.
I like that example of encouraging people to read fit guides and rewarding them for doing that. That's a really nice way. I think that's a great example, because that's a complete edge case, and it's
right.
not something that everyone would think about. They would try and just put it prominently on a PDP and hope that people read it. Interesting. And is it too soon to know what impact it's had? Are they seeing in that segment that it's having a positive effect through on the returns rate? Or do you don't know?
So I don't know yet. I didn't. I was advising this customer. I didn't actually kind of see them through to it, as I'm not in the direct customer facing role. But what I can share is anecdotally, we've done this with a lot of other customers in the past, and they have shared that it has actually had an impact. And I would say that use case, it doesn't need to just be returns. It could be maybe a e-com brand really believes in giving back to their community, and they want to encourage people to read about how they give back, or maybe they're looking to collect more information on their customers, such as their interests, their age range, whatever. So loyalty should always be used as a way to collect that data and create that value exchange between the customer and the brand, and not just simply reward them for purchases, but reward them for those desired actions that you're looking to change.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice point. It's what's the behavior you're trying to encourage? Because it shouldn't always be about changing the customer. It should be encouraging them, rewarding them for positive behavior, right? And that can be transactional, non-transactional, it could be community, it could be whatever, however you define it.
Right.
I think you're right. I think, Itay, you alluded to this earlier about more businesses are taking loyalty seriously. It's a shame that it's taken so long, but I mean, it's just such an obvious thing, isn't it? Why wouldn't you reward somebody for being a customer and encourage them to have a better relationship with you? Who'd have thought that works, eh? Cool. So I've got a question around licensing. I don't know, before we while we were talking about planning this podcast, we talked about how, you know, in the past there used to be like a single license fee, and for some merchants that made it a bit cost prohibitive. And I know that you have changed that completely now, and the licensing model is I guess it's bundled and it's split up across different projects, so you can have an entry point rather than having to take everything. Could you, I don't know, Itay, whether this is the question you want to take, or Erin, but can you talk me through how does that licensing work, and you know what are the entry points so that people can realise, actually, do you know what, I could trial and pilot part of this without it being cost prohibitive?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So first of all, starting next year, we're going to have two plans by the name of Prime and Gold. Basically, there will be like a cheaper version of a plan that is between premium package. It comes with a customer success manager to our self-service, where you have to figure out everything on your own. So you're actually going to have like a dedicated onboarding manager. Typically, definitely loyalty. That seems to be like a sticky point for brands. Like, I know I want it, but I have no idea how to do it, right? So if we'll have just like an onboarding specialist just to help you get through the first steps, that will be maybe good enough for you. And then once you cross a certain threshold, we put it around like 1,000 orders per month or so. Then you will qualify for a more premium plan that will come with a customer success manager, with a strategist, to make sure that you're optimizing and kind of making sure that you're maximizing everything from your plan. So your first point of the question, if you're a small brand, you want to enjoy Yotpo, but you're not doing enough to qualify for the premium brand, you can actually go to like either Prime or Gold, try it out. It's a monthly plan. It's very competitive. The pricing is very competitive with what else is out there on the self-service side. And once you're going to get to that threshold, we'll reach out and we'll recommend you if you want to kind of go to like a different plan.
And you've also added, sorry, no, please go.
The second thing is, of course, we will continue to offer a single product to our premium. So if you're a large brand, but you only want reviews, that's not a problem. We can serve you only just reviews. Just because we're building a platform doesn't mean we stop believing that we have to be the best in our verticals and different other elements. So take Yotpo as a review provider and compare us to like the best of what's out there. Yotpo is a vertical leader. Same goes to loyalty, same goes to SMS, and this doesn't stop. The fact that we want to have like a single platform with benefits and synergies between the product doesn't mean that we're not building the best product in its vertical. So even though we are offering like a bundle plan, which is much more cost effective, if you only want to have, reviews, just only want to have Yotpo loyalty, that's something that we can definitely offer. But the kind of the price efficiencies comes in when you take more products, just because we have like our kind of overhead is cheaper, right? We're gonna have a single customer success manager that can manage multiple products, so it makes our life easier when we bundle it on the commercial side as well.
And what's the most popular bundle at the moment? Right, my assumption is it's going to involve SMS, but is that wrong?
No, you're I would say kind of the most common I'm seeing these days is kind of a combo of loyalty, SMS, and reviews as well. It's coming. A lot of people kind of come to Yotpo because they think they want to change their existing reviews, not knowing that we offer everything else. So you can hear a lot of like intro demos of, oh my God, you guys are also doing this. Oh my God, you guys are also doing that. You're checking multiple boxes. So kind of people come to us because of like, our legacy products, but on the way they realize that we can do much, much more to them. So yeah, I would say, Erin, what do you think? Was it kind of in your end as well?
I would say, reviews and loyalty, if you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, that was the biggest. But actually, I'm seeing a lot of brands now with, reviews, loyalty, SMS. What's really great about reviews and SMS, which isn't necessarily something people associate together, is that we actually see much higher review conversion rate with brands that ask for reviews through SMS. Because, I think there's a stat like 98% of SMS messages are open within the first 3 minutes. We all probably have our phones within arm's reach of us. So that's maybe one that a brand doesn't necessarily think about, but if you're looking to maximize reviews, why not send them out to SMS?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And also it's coming back to that whole customer segmentation piece, is understanding which channel people most want to be communicated through.
Right.
Because the SMS bit, do you play in the WhatsApp space yet, or is that a future roadmap piece? Because I know a couple of luxury brands I work with, their premium VIP customer audience, every communication is personalized. It's through WhatsApp, and therefore they're constantly looking for where they can automate stuff through technology into WhatsApp rather than into just standard SMS.
So we're constantly speaking about with Facebook directly or with other kind of aggregators that allow you to do WhatsApp. WhatsApp does come in with like some limitations on the marketing side of things, or what you can and cannot do, even if someone opted out once versus once every 24 hours. So there's a lot of different kind of privacy rules and regulations and things that brands think that they can do with WhatsApp, but they can't. We're definitely keeping a very close eye on it. We're part of the marketing automation piece. We'll be sitting not to look at WhatsApp very seriously, but nothing kind of concrete as of now.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that leads me on nicely to my final question for you. I'll be interested in both your perspectives on this. Where is the Yotpo roadmap headed in 2023, and why? Is this about feature expansion, or is it about increasing the capabilities in existing features?
Yeah, so we're definitely focusing on product synergies, as Itay mentioned earlier. So that's a big roadmap item for us in general. But really, it's just helping brands focus on retention is what it boils down to. So if you think about what's changed in the macro environment over the last couple of years with the pandemic, we've found brands are spending oftentimes 80% of their marketing budget just to acquire a customer, and they hope that customer is going to come back and make a second purchase. Reality is not every customer is going to make a second purchase, or maybe they take several weeks to do so. So really that's where we're focusing our efforts in 2023 is around retention. So helping brands drive those lifelong customer relationships, increase customer lifetime value, and retain them. And so I'll just kind of share like a use case around that is talked about subscription. That's a big roadmap item for us to continue to invest and build up our offering there. But it's not just about getting subscribers, it's about retaining them, which goes into that retention piece. So we can look at where your customers typically falling off in the subscription purchasing cycle. So is it, they subscribe 3 times and then they realize they have too much of the product. So it's not only making it easy for them to pause or cancel, but retaining them by giving them loyalty points or, asking them for dynamic feedback about their 5th or subscription purchase with a review. That's one thing. Itay, anything else you feel?
No, I think that's like 100% spot on. At the same time, we're also kind of we're seeing a very big appetite to Yotpo and kind of a global expansion side of things. For example, France and Germany, the way Shopify kind of explodes there creates a really interesting opportunity for us and a pretty big demand for our services. So just keeping an eye out of what it means on localization. How can we make sure that we can support like specific things like multi-currency, and although we can do it, there's a lot of like small nuances that you can always improve. I would say that's also probably going to be something we'll make sure that we'll focus on.
Yeah, that raises an interesting question actually. So say for something like the SMS piece, how does that play in somebody who's like, they might be on Shopify, maybe they're using markets and they've got expansion stores for like France and Germany and they're translated. How do they do the translated versions? Is that just simply in the back end you just create a different language version of a campaign?
Erin, you want?
Yeah. So quick anecdote is, so SMS was an acquisition we made in 2020. That is, I almost added a 2 on that. And they're actually they were originally based out of Sofia, Bulgaria. So the reason why I bring that up is because they're a global company at its inception. So everything we do with SMS, for example, has that lens where you can be very, easy to translate the messages. Sorry about that. Easy to translate the messages. So to answer your question at a high level, they can either have, dynamic variables within SMS to capture which language the customer prefers to be communicated with, or they can take kind of the same approach as they do with their front end of their website, where this certain demographic gets communications in English, this one in Swedish, etc.
Cool, excellent, thanks. I'm sure that that we've covered a lot, so thank you for like the transparency around the product and where you're going. There might be somebody with a particular use case where they're thinking, I'm not quite sure how this would be satisfied, or I've got a platform and I want to really understand the integration properly because I'm nervous about how easy it is to plug stuff in. How do they reach out? Who do they reach out to?
If your podcast can have an email address, feel free to put my email address there to any questions whatsoever. Paul also has my WhatsApp. James, I think you also have my WhatsApp. So feel free to kind of to reach out to you, and then we can get there. There's also like a Yotpo.com has a Quest demo. We're typically quite good at returning a message or a phone quite quickly. Any one of those means, and of course we'll publish Erin's address so they can knock on her door as well if they have questions.
Yeah, where all PII will be demonstrated in a completely non-compliant way, thus destroying our professional podcast. Brilliant. Look, thanks ever so much for being wonderful guests, Itay and Erin. Really appreciate you taking the time. And thanks to everyone for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Keep an ear open for our next episode. We drop one every Tuesday. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and please do give us that rating on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and actually now on Amazon. Isn't that exciting? Until next week, everybody. For more information on this topic, head over to replatform.fm for our audio podcasts. To discuss a project, or if you'd like to chat about any of the topics covered in this episode in more detail, please reach out to myself, James Gerd, or my co-host Paul Rogers via LinkedIn and Twitter. Thanks again for listening, and keep your ears peeled for the next episode.